Good evening. This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. The first look at and listen to the badly damaged black boxes recovered from the chartered Aero Air DC-8 wreckage outside Gander Airport tonight revealed nothing. No firm clue to the cause of the crash that killed all the U.S. soldiers and crew aboard the jet. U.S. officials said today there were 248, not 250 U.S. soldiers on board, returning from a tour of duty in the Sinai Peacekeeping Force. With the crew, the total dead now stands at 256. Search teams today recovered more bodies amid the wreckage and Christmas present packages. Bill Rediker is there.
Investigators at the crash site today said it was the DC-8's tail that first struck a grove of trees and then this ridge before the plane exploded into a fireball a half a mile from the airport. Debris strewn for 3/4 of a mile still litters the area, though fire and its intense heat destroyed much of the evidence. It was also revealed today that not all of the victims have been recovered.
All the bodies have not been removed yet. There are still some bodies still at the site.
By late today, more than 200 bodies had been laid out at a makeshift morgue in an airport hangar. Autopsies of the 8 crew members will try to determine whether the flight crew had been drinking, suffered from stress, or heart failure. Officials who examined the voice and data recorders came up with few clues due to extensive damage to the so-called black boxes.
Unfortunately, when we opened it, we found that the tape, it had broken in 2 places. This most probably occurred at impact.
We've only done an initial examination, and that initial examination has not provided any information that leads to any conclusions about the cause of the crash.
Could you comment on whether the condition of this data recorder...
That sort of frustration seems to be growing as Canadian investigators fail to find a cause. So far, they say it was a normal takeoff. Although this military aircraft brought transport caskets to Gander today, authorities say none of the bodies will be flown back to the United States until all of the autopsies are completed, perhaps sometime this weekend. The crash of the chartered DC-8 has left a trail of reminders, but so far no answers to explain why so many died here. Bill Rediker, CBS News, Gander, Newfoundland.
Sources at the Pentagon and within the FAA have told CBS News that U.S. investigators in Newfoundland are seriously looking into the possibility that the Aero Air DC-8, loaded with soldiers, baggage, and fuel, may have been overweight, unable to fly. These officials also say that even though the pilot never asked for de-icing, ice may have formed on the jet's wings prior to takeoff, possibly contributing to the crash. Arthur Wolk, an aviation specialist and licensed transport pilot, says the combination of a heavy plane and ice can be disastrous.
Icing destroys the ability of the aircraft's wings to generate lift. You can have just a very thin surface film of ice on an aircraft wing and make that aircraft totally incapable of flight at any weight.
While the cause of the crash remains under investigation, former Aero Air employees are coming forward, accusing the airline of poor maintenance procedures. James Court is a former Aero Air pilot who resigned last year.
I was most unhappy about the maintenance situation.
Was it unsafe?
To say it would be unsafe would paint it too easily.
Mechanic Randy Sturm worked last summer on the DC-8 that crashed yesterday. He says most of the mechanics who worked on the plane didn't know what they were doing and that the jet was in bad shape.
Pretty poor. It wasn't a well-maintained aircraft. Lacking in maintenance, it was carrying a number of deferred items on the aircraft.
June, the FAA fined Aero Air $34,000 for numerous safety violations. A spokesman for Aero Air today denied the airline has a bad maintenance history and called James Court a former employee with an axe to grind. The spokesman also said, "We have never flown an airplane that is not completely safe to fly." Tom Ritson-Taylor says he will never fly Aero Air again. He was in an Aero DC-8 last summer on a flight from Frankfurt, Germany to Detroit. Ritson-Taylor says about 10 minutes into the flight, all 4 engines on the DC-8 went out.
Sound stopped. Everything went dead. You could hear a pin drop inside the cockpit or inside the fuselage. Everybody just more or less froze.
The engines were restarted in flight. Aero Air officials say the DC-8 that crashed yesterday was scheduled for a major maintenance overhaul, including the replacement of 1 engine. Investigators from the FAA and the NTSB are searching the company's maintenance records for possible problems. Peter Van Sant, CBS News, Atlanta.
Defense Department correspondent David Martin reports tonight the Pentagon now has approved the Army's new request not to use Aero Air or any other contract charter company to fly home the rest of the 101st Airborne next week from peacekeeping duties in the Sinai. Instead, U.S. military-owned and operated transports will be sent this time. The reason the Army gives is not safety. The Army says it's because not to add to the emotional stress of the soldiers or their families. President and Nancy Reagan will join the relatives of the air crash victims and soldiers who served previously with the peacekeeping force in the Sinai for memorial services at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, those services to be held next Monday morning. For the families already gathered at Fort Campbell, the shock gave way to grief today. Instead of the expected familiar voice of a returning loved one at the door, it was the dreaded knock at the door. Bruce Hall reports.
The weather and the mood were the same at Fort Campbell today. Dark, dreary, and bleak. It was a somber group of 125 hand-picked soldiers who left for Dover Air Force Base to serve as an honor guard for their fallen buddies. Despite their mood, some units of the 101st returned to the training field today.
We also feel the pain of what's going on. You're not going to be able to stop when you're a soldier. You must continue.
Around the country, this scene was repeated dozens of times. In Brentwood, Pennsylvania, Army officials delivered the bad news to Janice Shrimp.
No, 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 it can't be, not Peter. And then hours later we learned that yes, it was Peter.
The young man was doing what he wanted to do. He made the decision to do that, okay? And I think he was very proud to do it. And I was very proud of him, too. He was a super young man, okay? And my life's better for the fact that he was here.
I mean, it hurts me because he'll be my third son I had lost.
And for the 70 or so families in and around Fort Campbell, there is comfort in the strong local support system, a sense of love and community.
People go into shock for a while and then they start pulling together.
Contributions are pouring into newly set up relief funds, along with offers of food, clothes, babysitting, comfort.
I would say the biggest need right now is for a shoulder to cry on, for someone to be there.
Soldiers and civilians alike here feel a deep personal sense of loss.
When a tragedy like this occurs, it is not only felt by the family members, but by each and every one, because, you know, that could have been anybody. That could happen to anyone.
There was at least one happy twist today. Andrea Nunez had been notified in El Paso, Texas, that her brother Louis Grolan was aboard the plane. Today, officials called back, said he missed the flight and was still alive.
Should we celebrate Christmas? You know, we already got our Christmas present.
So the Christmas tree that was taken down yesterday went back up today. Bruce Hall, CBS News, Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
Coffee should please all the senses. To the eye, it should appear rich, not thin. The aroma should capture the taste, intense, as in this dark roasted Nescafe Brava, smooth, subtle, as in this Nescafe Silka. And the taste, that's why only Nescafe custom blends 4 distinctive coffees.
Ultimately, taste is in the eye, nose, and palate of the beholder.
Nescafe, taste your way.
For us, some days start in the middle of the night.
Isn't she beautiful?
Sharing times like these is important to us. It touches everything we do, from helping one another to the food we put on the table. Like a WD brand U.S. Choice pot roast from Winn-Dixie. For your family, you just can't buy better tasting beef. We're the beef people. We're Winn-Dixie.
The Labor Department today reported that wholesale prices jumped a sharp 0.8% in November, but analysts said the increase was due almost entirely to a temporary surge in beef and fuel prices. After cracking some of the toughest kernels holding up a new farm bill setting wheat and grain subsidies, rice and cotton supports, congressional negotiators are still stalled tonight on one of the biggest farm bill controversies of all, dairy subsidies. What the federal government pays in subsidies, whether directly or indirectly, not only affects the farmers, but the prices we all pay, both in tax dollars and consumer dollars at the supermarket. Ray Brady looks tonight at one subsidy that could lead to a case of sugar shock.
This is the time of year when Americans load up on candy. They're consuming 19 pounds a year of these confections, more than they have in the last decade. But for candy makers, this appetite for sweets has a bittersweet taste. They're paying as much as 5 times more for sugar than other countries because of a federal government program to aid sugar growers here, a program that many say should be cut back.
It's the most outrageous program, the biggest boondoggle ever conceived by man.
Under this program, the U.S. guarantees the price growers will get for their sugar crop. And to make sure the price stays up, it is keeping millions of tons of foreign sugar out of this country. The result, candy makers pay about 22 cents a pound for sugar that sells on world markets for around 4 cents a pound. All this, say critics, to protect a few thousand sugar farmers.
We can compete worldwide as long as our government provides a level playing field for us, a fair way to compete.
The average sugar farmer gets a subsidy of $250,000 per farm. That's an awful lot of money. I think that's a pretty sweet bargain that they've worked with the federal government.
Since candy is largely sugar, that industry is especially hard hit. Candy imports, made with cheaper sugar, have nearly tripled in the last 5 years. Consumers pay an estimated $3 billion more in food bills because of high-priced sugar. And critics say sugar growers may be pricing themselves out of jobs. For example, the Real Thing used to contain real sugar, no more. Since this government program started in 1981, 7 sugar refineries have closed, a loss of 3,000 jobs. Sugar growers dismiss many of these complaints.
I don't see that it's as alarming as they say it is. That they've made it alarming because it's convenient, because the sugar bill is up for debate.
That debate today took a turn in favor of U.S. growers when a House Senate Conference Committee recommended that sugar imports be cut even more. Ray Brady, CBS News, New York.
A report out today by a National Academy of Sciences panel finds that in spite of big employment gains in the 1970s, women still earn just about 60% of the salaries of men. Part of it is skill or experience differences, says the Academy, but up to 40% of the problem is sex segregation in jobs.
It's the season for holiday giving, and Norelco has the quality gifts to give. Give him a blade close shave, a beard and mustache trimmer, open his wine or light up his nights. Give her a beautiful new look, and ultra-thin bath scale, a cordless can opener, cleaner air, or the ultimate in ironing ease. For quality holiday gifts, it's Norelco, because even our name says Merry Christmas.
Norelco, we put quality first.
I've got a headache this big, and it's got Excedrin written all over it.
I've got a headache this big, and it's got Excedrin written all over it.
Excedrin, the big headache medicine. More medicine than any regular strength pain reliever. The most medicine you can buy without a prescription. Nothing is stronger.
Places, everybody. I had a headache this big, but I took Excedrin and it's gone.
Excedrin, from Bristol Myers. Excedrin, the headache medicine.
Researchers at the Pasteur Institute in Paris today said they have filed legal action to win recognition of their claim that they discovered the deadly AIDS virus earlier than U.S. colleagues. At issue is who gets the royalties from diagnostic kits or potential cures or vaccines. But what about the 15,000 people in this country who already suffer from AIDS, the thousands more who will contract the disease? Concluding her 2 reports, Susan Spencer tonight explains why for doctors and patients alike, desperation mingles with hope.
Almost a year after Bill learned he had AIDS, just walking into his doctor's office is an excruciating, almost impossible task.
I've been getting progressively worse.
What once would have been unusual about Bill's case is becoming more common in AIDS patients. His symptoms indicate that the virus is attacking not only his immune cells, but his nervous system and his brain as well.
It's very hard for me to remember places and times, dates.
Doctors concede that early in this disease, they may have written off many of the neurological symptoms of AIDS, thinking patients simply were depressed. Today, they've seen enough to start testing for them.
I want you to tell me exactly where I'm touching you.
The problems range from simple forgetfulness and difficulty walking to total paralysis and insanity. And these symptoms are sometimes the first doctors see.
And we've seen about 28 such patients in all, in which the dementia was a major early manifestation of their overall disease.
Frank Donahue's first symptoms of AIDS were neurological, in his case, partial paralysis.
They thought that there was a brain tumor in there. And so I went to get the surgery. And he told me at the surgery that the bottom line was AIDS.
Along with neurological problems, doctors have started to notice AIDS patients developing new cancers, rare forms of Hodgkin's disease, and various lymphomas. It's thought these new mental and physical problems may simply be what happens when the AIDS virus has had a longer time to do its work.
What will happen to the people who are carrying this virus for 5 or 10 or 15 years, especially if we can't develop a drug that blocks the virus? Will the mental problems increase?
One drug that does seem to block the virus and work in the brain is azithromycin, nicknamed Compound S. In very preliminary tests, Compound S patients have shown some improvement. In the search for the ultimate weapon, an AIDS vaccine, interest centers on discovering why some people can be infected with the virus yet not get AIDS. These African green monkeys may offer a clue. A virus similar to the human AIDS virus seems not to affect them. A vaccine might mimic the mechanism that keeps them healthy. But would the public ever accept a vaccine against this particular dread disease?
I think the problem is taking any virus that's anything like the AIDS virus and giving it to normal humans. I would not volunteer for that at this point.
Reactions like that speak to the devastation of AIDS, a disease that seems to be picking up new identities as it evolves, leaving both scientist and patient desperate for answers.
As long as you're still alive, you still have hope for something. And I'm not giving up.
For others, it's hard not to.
You gotta do something about all this AIDS stuff.
Bill, we're trying and you're trying.
Susan Spencer, CBS News, Boston.
At Seiko, great technology inspires great design. Steel rods and gleaming hinges for a supple bracelet watch. Gold tone on gray tone for the definitive strap watch. A second hand on her elegant dress watch. Water resistant too, very today. One diamond and a rich two-tone setting, very tonight. Man invented time, Seiko perfected it.
Holiday special. Buy a Riuniti Magnum and save $2 now. A great gift.
The State Department made public today, vaguely, a plan for a U.S. peace offer in Afghanistan. The plan was secretly presented by President Reagan to Soviet leader Gorbachev at the Geneva summit. It wasn't revealed publicly until today. It's said to involve a U.S. offer to guarantee provisions of a ceasefire and the withdrawal of Soviet troops from Afghanistan. In South Africa, blacks have organized a Christmas boycott of white-owned stores, and it's apparently having considerable effect. They've set up roadblocks and searches to prevent blacks from shopping at white stores. Violators of this black boycott have their shopping taken from them by the militants. The result, many blacks have abandoned shopping this Christmas season, and there's a dispute over the boycott's methods. Many black leaders say they support the boycott, but not the intimidation of what goes with it. 3 men were found shot to death in Johannesburg, a suburb of Johannesburg today. Details unclear. And a boycott leader who advocated non-violence reportedly was arrested in Soweto. There was a major vote today by the California Board of Education, a vote with nationwide implications. At issue, 7th and 8th grade textbooks, which will be in classrooms next fall. Barry Peterson has that story.
Junior high students trying to understand the origins of man.
Because I don't know how either God did it or did the monkeys do it?
60 years ago, the debate raged at the famous Scopes monkey trial, evolution versus the Bible's account of creation. And many educators say, even now, the Bible has too much influence on science textbooks. Some don't even mention the word evolution. Textbook publishers try to avoid controversy, but what about the children?
These books, and the others like them, are books from the 18th century.
Example about dinosaurs, quote, some scientists believe that strange animals with dry, scaly skins roam the earth.
If this is just a belief, what the hell are those bones out there in the museum?
I brought something that is part of a dinosaur that roamed the earth millions of years ago, so this is what some scientists believe.
California ordered the books rewritten. More science, less creationism.
To suggest that students research creationism in a science class is the same, I think, as suggesting in a class on human reproduction that a report be made on the alternate explanation involving the stork.
They are forcing the student to conclude that there is no God. They're teaching us that human evolution is true and the only way in which we should interpret how man got here.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No. The revised textbooks were accepted.
If we're going to be a scientifically literate nation and compete in this world, we're going to have to present science courses that give students a crack at that information.
Books rewritten for California will be sold extensively in other states. So what happened here means that across the country, evolution will be more clearly taught in science class. Barry Peterson, CBS News, Sacramento, California.
Ford Escort is the world's best-selling car. Nobody can seem to catch it. Escort outsells Nissan Sentra, Honda Civic, and Toyota Tercel by nearly 2 to 1 or more. And with its more powerful engine, Escort could make the gap even wider. So while Ford Escort continues to be the world's best-selling car, the competition somehow seems to miss the boat.
Now, get 7.9% financing on all new Ford Escorts.
If you've got a lot of men to buy for, but not a lot of ideas, come to Sears. Save 50% on this Craftsman drill and circular saw, or this Craftsman tool set. Need more ideas? This cassette car stereo is half price, and this Craftsman timing light is only $29.99. Plus, Sears has dozens of hardware gifts for under $15. Shall I go on?
There's more for your life at Sears. This is dedicated to the ones we love.
You know what your problem is, Eric?
Alice?
You're 43 years old, and you still eat cold pizza and donuts for breakfast.
So that's it.
All that sugar, all those preservatives.
Hold it. Should I try Nutri-Grain?
Delicious Nutri-Grain, only the whole grain, with no preservatives and no sugar added.
Goodbye.
Oh, wait, does this mean you love me?
Yes.
Kellogg's Nutri-Grain cereal.
Dedicated to the ones we love.
On Sunday, a few thousand people will hear a sound in New York that this city hasn't heard in 2 years. That may not sound like a long time, but Bob Simon explains why it's a noteworthy occasion.
There is an incomparable thrill about a comeback, suspense. Has the star faded? Does the old man still have what it takes? Some end in triumph, some in disaster. Some people make a career of coming back. Vladimir Horowitz has retired half a dozen times. He is 82 years old. He is coming back to Carnegie Hall on Sunday. He was rehearsing this afternoon. If you've ever been the slightest bit intimidated by a great artist, meet Vladimir Horowitz.
You think if I play in Carnegie Hall, there will be people?
Do you think there will be? Of course there'll be people. People lined up to 94th Street trying to buy tickets.
Like before?
Absolutely.
They didn't forget me?
There were enough people who didn't forget to give Sunday's concert the usual Horowitz epithet, sold out. People stood online 24 hours.
This guy is God. Vladimir Horowitz is the best pianist in the world.
He is able, absolutely, to bring along his audience
and create a power of magnetism and electricity that captivates them.
Horowitz ended his most recent retirement in Paris last month, then on to La Scala in Milan, both warm-ups for Sunday in Carnegie, where Horowitz became an American celebrity overnight in 1928. Your first concert at Carnegie Hall was 57 years ago.
Yeah.
What do you remember about it?
Nothing. Nothing.
What has kept him alive and vital? Well, there's his critic, his taskmaster, and his wife, Wanda, the daughter of Toscanini. There's the fact that he never does the same thing twice. He discovers new sounds in old pieces, colors as varied as the shape of snowflakes.
This kind of absolutely controlled clang of sound that can shake the foundations of the building and yet whisper as softly as a girl's tear.
And yet there's a mischievous, impish quality. How old was he when he started?
3 years old.
The boy who never grew up. Is he about to lift his fingers from a keyboard or from a cookie jar? The words used to describe him, fiery, impetuous, audacious, are words which describe youth. On Sunday, the question will be asked once again, what's going to happen when Vladimir Horowitz starts to grow old? Bob Simon, CBS News, New York.
We have a very beautiful thing now.
And that's the CBS Evening News for this Friday. Dan Rather reporting from New York. Thank you for joining us. See you here again Monday.
For over 30 years, I was a blade shaver. Then I tried the Remington microscreen and fell in love. That's why I bought the company. The Remington microscreen shaved me as close as a blade and fast. Remington has 2 thin, flexible screens. The first shaves incredibly close, the second even closer. And the Remington microscreen rechargeable never needs a cord because this convenient charger stand keeps it continually charged. And the Lady Remington rechargeable, the perfect gift, shaves without a cord.
Oh, when the pain in my fingers starts, it stops me from doing what I love. I used to take aspirin for minor arthritis pain. Today, I take Advil. Advil contains a non-prescription strength of ibuprofen, the medicine in the prescription brand Motrin. Just 1 Advil is as effective as 2 regular aspirin. That's important. Advil keeps me playing for hours, and Advil didn't upset my stomach. Advil, advanced medicine for pain.
Both neighbors just bought garage door openers. Ralph bought old-fashioned chain drive, but Herb got Genie Track Drive, the chainless opener. Herb's lucky. Track Drive really is the easiest to install and never needs grease or adjusting. Buy Track Drive and get a little help from me, or buy Chain Drive and go it alone.
To open your door without a transmitter or a key, get the new Genie keyless entry pad. It works with any garage door opener.
Jets playoff hopes. Coverage begins with the NFL Today at noon Eastern. Tomorrow on CBS Sports.
This is CBS.
In our news tonight, an honor guard leaves Fort Campbell to meet the bodies of the soldiers who died on their trip home from the Sinai. A live Satellite 5 report from Dover Air Force Base, where preparations are underway to receive those bodies. And a live Satellite 5 report from Hopkinsville, where a memorial service for those soldiers has just ended. This and a lot more are coming up next on Eyewitness News. Join us.
Different. Lots of stores have gifts. One store is different.